Hey. We are back with our next segment. Segment. I just ate a burrito. I feel good. We talk about wellness, right? I ate a nice veggie burrito. Vegan.
That's
good. I feel good. I got more energy. I walked out there. Everyone was like, "You okay? You need some water? You need something to eat?" Which is exactly what we talk about. Wellness. How do we live well? How do we practice that wellness? How do we find practices that bring us wellness? I think you all are a mixed bag of different applications and different remedies to life and being aware of the things that work well for us. Yeah? So, to introduce you guys, we have Coco Queen of Earth's Cabinet. We have Yahaya Musa of Musa Yoga. And we got the illustrious, Jazmine Hayes. Jazz up your food. I'm going to just throw that little nugget in there because that's definitely part of this wellness conversation. I anticipate going all over the spectrum from art to yoga to food with everybody because I know you like to eat too. To just getting down to the basics of life, getting back to the foundation of what life is about and how we implement those things on a daily basis so that we can truly have a life worth living and to truly live well in this life. So, you guys okay?
Yeah.
Feeling good?
Feel good.
Awesome. Where shall we start? You made eye contact first.
To
you, my dear friend. Yoga is life, as you always say, but truly do practice and live. Talk to us a little bit about that. Yoga is life, and I know we joke when I joke when you say it to me, but I know you mean it very seriously, and you mean it in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I do mean it pretty seriously. Try not to be too serious about it sometimes, especially in conversation with some people. I don't want to be off-putting or anything like that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, yoga is life in the sense that it really encompasses all. You know, it translates pretty closely to just union. You know, that's our union with everything, and just the close connection, that we have with like each other and nature. Our food, it's really how we go about our daily lives, how we move our energy basically is yoga. So that's everything. So
cool. How did you come into this space of yoga being life?
Gotcha. I always feel like it's such a boring story, but I stumbled across a yoga class while I was playing soccer, and it was perfect timing in the sense like my body was just getting shot, which was affecting my mental too, and took a yoga class just to kind of address my physical body, like which was like tight IT band, just everything not feeling like it did when I was 20. You know what I mean? So did that class, and that was maybe 7 years ago, and did a class every day from then, and just kind of fell in love with it. First 2-3 years were all physical, and then started getting introduced to like the meditative side of it, the diet side of it, and just really how it can be applied to every aspect of my life, of everyone's life, really.
Yeah, we're gonna tap into that a little bit more, but I'm gonna move along to your lady on your left.
Coco.
Yes. So yeah, you are in the practice of medicine, herbal medicine, phytotherapy, aromatherapy, all the therapies that bring balance to one's being. Talk to us about that.
So I am just in understanding that everything has a vibration, but the goal is to make sure that you can find a vibration that can balance out another vibration just in case that vibration is in chaos. So, understanding that the earth has a natural vibration, a vibration that is not like man-made or just like altered, and just understanding that throughout society and how we are, how our our nerves, they get sporadic, they're all over the place. The way you eat, that plays a major role in the vibration of your body. So when we do certain things, they actually have an effect, and it can be long term. So understanding a vibration allows you to understand yourself and understand how it feels to actually be in touch with another vibration. So taking plant foods into your body and herbs into your body, making sure that you are using scents to, stimulate.
You said scent, like smell, or
Yes,
sense, like
scent.
senses?
Scent. To stimulate your senses. So all of these things focus on balancing energy naturally.
Important. We obviously going to get into that more as well. I'm going to shift over to you. I know you were like, what are we talking about here? But
I could talk about it.
I know that's why we're here. But to me, just viewing your practice in art, your practice in storytelling, by tapping into where you tap into, which is otherworldly and before our time and such. Being able to establish a means to do so, in my eyes, and really be able to like ritualize a practice of that tapping in and that expression, is what I admire about you, and part of the conversation I wanted to have with you in terms of wellness, finding that in life and developing practice around it.
So I guess my wellness practice consists of 3 very strong aspects. So diet, which deals with discipline. The second is breath work, which has really shifted my life and helped me like go into movement and understand my body in those ways. And then third is like affirmation work. So I've been plant-based for about 5 years, and shifting my diet helped me to listen to my body more and see how it responds to different things. So like what Coco was saying, like about scents or certain foods, like I always wear rose because it helps me stay calm, right? Or when I have my cycle or certain things are going on in my body, I'll eat certain foods to pertain to that. Like if I'm getting headaches, I'm like, oh, my magnesium is low, or like paying attention in those ways. And this has kind of shifted into more of my art practice. I've been doing murals for about 10 years with youth, and I predominantly teach young women of color. And in my teaching, I noticed that a lot of them suffer from low self-esteem. And so I began doing a lot of breath work and affirmational work with them. And like till this day, I'll still get calls and they'll be like, yeah, you know, that really helps. I still say my affirmations, my I am statements, etc. So it all kind of like intertwines, like your diet, your routines, your daily routines. I incorporate it in a lot of my performance work and creating space for Black women. And so I always start with meditation. I always try and focus in with my participants in the space, help them focus in on their breath and their mental state and relax in those ways. So it's a combination, they all overlap. And then that ran into jazz up your food. In the height of the pandemic, I wasn't eating any processed foods in the beginning of the pandemic. And then I was like, I'm just going to start a plant-based. I know, I'm back to some processed things every once in a while, but I try not to indulge in it too much and try and be in nature, eat food of nature, and be around people who are like-minded as well. So.
A lot of what I'm hearing from kind of everybody is it's definitely a combination of consumptions, which is food, diet, like you all mentioned, but also just the vibrations that we offer and allow within our spaces. A lot of breath work, which has to do with vibrations and consumption as well. And seemingly just like this oneness and awareness of one's body. You mentioned movement and such as well. So I know you kind of tapped on, you took this one yoga class and then it was over from there. But can we speak about like the places in your lives that you all were when this potential shift of consciousness or discipline just kind of like really came to you and it became, you know, the way of living that you're in right now? Because you mentioned like the first couple years, and I love that you mentioned that because yoga does not make me meditate, right? I'm not being too mindful at all in yoga. So for you to say that it literally was years of it just being a physical practice before you were able to sit and meditate, I think is important to hear, but also speaks to, again, that process and that journey of, you know, getting over that hump. Because a lot of times we going up the hill and we think we there and we doing it, but then it's like, oh, there's a hump here, and it gets gravity's on your side at some point. So for all of you guys, just can you speak to that point of your existence where this turn or shift might have been really taking a toll?
Okay.
Get excited. This is
So-
Yahaya, you excited?
Oh man, like yeah, talking about this stuff really is like such a pleasure, honestly. Especially because I know, like, just it's part of why I started like practicing and stuff like that, hearing other people speak or watching someone else practice. So if I can share, I'm happy to. Where I was when I first started practicing yoga was, damn, it's like that point in your life where you can either start to improve yourself or kind of just give in to whatever happens in your life, you know?
Yeah.
So I think I was at a point where I just wanted to be more proactive in my life as opposed to waiting for whatever to happen. So yeah, it did start with physical. You know, that was a point where I was still playing soccer, still trying to pursue a professional soccer career. So I was very much into like, how can I get my body to perform like I wanted to? But I was also at the end of my soccer career, so it was just a nice transition. And the physical really is, there's stages to even to anything you're trying to do in your life, there's stages to it, right? And the physical is really the first part. I think I notice a lot of people want to start with the meditation because there is a mental disturbance with a lot of us, you know, but a lot of it does stem from, there's a lot, you know, if you're not comfortable in your own body, then it's really hard to like try to like, there's no way you can almost feel, if you're not settled in your body, it's really hard for your mind to settle as well. So once you get your body, once you get your body functioning at a certain level, naturally you start to be a little bit more meditative because now you're almost like relaxed in
your body has space for it.
Right, you're relaxed in your home. And then you can start to add breath work or meditation, you know, because you can sit comfortably. It's really hard to like settle things down if you can't sit comfortably.
Your body is your sensory vehicle. So if it's uncomfortable or unsettled, your mind just naturally is going to be tuned into that as opposed to being able to receive and experience elsewhere. So I mean, to go more in depth, I just lost my aunt. At that point, I just got divorced. I was supposed to be married. I got divorced.
I did not know this.
And I was at this like place where soccer was all I knew, and I was coming to this point where my body was like, this might not be it anymore. So it was like those three things within a space of 6 months was a lot for me at that point, you know. And yoga helped me kind of transition to like this place in my life where I could be proactive in my life.
Gotcha.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you for sharing. No business.
Well,
I feel like your process, yours is like a,
yes, it's got some layers.
It's layered.
You're always going through transitions in life, so it's like sometimes your routines have to shift according to those things. And so I went plant-based. I was going through some health ailments with my womb in 2016, and doctors couldn't really figure out. They had me like on birth control, different things, and I was starting to get frustrated. And I was like studying Dr. Sabi. I was just like up all night, like on the computer, just like researching everything. And I was like, all right, I'll try pescatarian. And then I was like, I don't like fish this much. I'm not going to do it. And then I was like vegetarian for 2 weeks. And by mistake, I went 2 weeks without dairy. I went to treat myself with some ice cream because I love ice cream. And my tonsils flared up immediately. So it was more of a logical thing at that moment where I was just like, oh, well, if I only went 2 weeks without dairy or meat and my tonsils reacted this way immediately once I put it back into my body, what has it been doing to me my entire life? And so I kind of just went like cold turkey and went dairy, which was like, I think it was like September 2016, awkward time when holidays are coming up. My family is like, what are you doing? You know? And that was just the first step, but that helped me start to pay attention to my body's response to what I was putting in it. And then meditation became more prevalent for me in 2018 when I was teaching. Our mural was... the mural that I was creating with these youth participants was on mental health and mental illness for a woman of color and what that looks like. And so we represented that through different deities, feminine deities. But that was like my lowest year. So it's weird. I'm talking about depression. I'm like working with these students, and a lot of them are also going through like bipolar disorder, anxiety. And so I would come into work some days and I'd be completely low and they could tell. But me doing meditation with them and keeping them on routine also helped me to stay on routine, where I was just like, I have to present and be there for them. And in return, they were also there for me. So it's like we were saving one another's lives in that way. And then movement actually started to enter in actually when I started coming to Remy. And so I started going to yoga classes. Yahaya and Joe were teaching, and I would just come, and that was actually my introduction to more so like, okay, I have the diet part, I have the breathwork part, and the free writes and journaling and affirmations, and I was like, okay, but how can I actually move my body? And so more recently, I've been really thinking about movement as a prayer. Like it's a prayer to myself, like thanking my body that is still here, especially with everything going on in the world. It's a prayer to the earth. The earth is always moving and growing. And so those are like the different stages. And all of these kind of came together last year. I was going through a lot. So every day I was doing grounding techniques. I would wake up at 6 a.m., meditate for 30 minutes, go into yoga for 30 minutes, and then free write for 30 minutes. Before I did anything else for the day. So, yeah, that's what my practice has been and how it started.
For me, I'd like to say it started when I was really young. So my mom always, I was always very sick as a kid. So my mom refused for me to take any medication. She would grow the herbs, or like when we're back home, she'll go and pick herbs. She'll pick herbs. She'll dry them out. She'll boil herbs. Make me take them. She would juice vegetables and fruits, just to make sure that my body was in the right space. And then you would notice, because I had really bad eczema. I mean, from scalp to the bottom of my feet. And she really took care of that. But as you get older, you do what you want. You eat what you want. Like, you're like, oh, McDonald's, Wendy's, this, that, and the third, Popeyes. Oh my God.
Popeyes, man. I used to be a Popeyes queen, y'all. Like, oh no.
Okay.
That was my thing. Okay.
I'd be like, can I get some strips and some?
Yes.
Can I get a biscuit with some? Okay.
With the jelly and the honey.
All right. So then I noticed that I was overweight. Like, I was literally 230 pounds. And I'm like, I'm sick. I'm always having mucus in my body. I'm always like sniffling, always sneezing. And then I just literally took it upon myself and I was like, I know how I used to feel. So why don't I want to feel that way? Right? So then I went to the doctor because I was getting pains in my lower area, right? And I found out that I had 2 cysts in my left ovary and 1 in my right. And then that really was like, for me, I was like, no, like this, like I'm not going to have this thing grow in my body and like literally suck the energy from my body as my body is really like, oh my God, I love you so much. What can we do? Okay, I'm done with this. Let me pass this on. What's next? Just like that's how the body works. It passes the baton so the next one can move, right? And then I just really started to get back into clean eating and just making sure I take my herbs, creating my own supplements, and I literally got rid of all 3 of those cysts. So they're like completely gone. So some things like that, as I was speaking about earlier, as far as vibration and finding vibrations that balance out chaotic vibrations. Like when you put the earth into your body recognizes it as the earth because your body is the earth.
Yeah.
You know, your body is the home. And then it's like you want to continue to take care of something physical that actually allows you to live this experience, right? Because your body is your house. You go in your house, it's cluttered. You feel upset. You feel depressed. You feel anxiety. You feel restless. But when you go into a clean house, you feel calm. You feel easy. You feel peaceful. You feel light, right? So when you think about these things and you understand that there's a spirit that lives in this body that's allowing this body to have this experience, why are you not treating your house like your actual physical house that your physical body is living in? So that actually assisted me in being able to continue practice because I was the victim and the suspect at the same time. So I was.
It's like you take off your shoes before you go into the house.
Okay.
So why are you putting this into your body?
Thank you. It's right. So I just think that that's really important to understand that a vibration is everything, and that if you are literally depending on these 4 elements that also help to create the earth, and you are composed of these 4 elements, why don't you see that there's a mirror image? So what makes you think that they don't work together?
I love that word. Little finger snaps, finger snaps. Yeah, I want to join the vegan bandwagon. That's on this couch right now and speak about my transition and diet in that way. But I was just in a time in my life that I was just really aware and conscious of my consumptions. I had stopped drinking alcohol and was, the reason why I stopped drinking alcohol, there's a few reasons. Financial, great decision.
Yes.
Socially, great decision. You're not hanging out with. I was drinking because I was hanging out. I was hanging out because I had drinking to do. All of that, and it's like.
And you gotta think about frequency.
And I was
vibration.
low vibrational. I was only hanging out with. I was drinking with coworkers who are people that are only in my life because I work with you, not because we cool and you're part of my life. So that was just, again, those consumptions of time and energy and such. But also I got to a point where like I would drink one drink, a wine or a beer or whatever at lunch at 12, wake up the next morning and be like, I drank yesterday? And like feel it in my body. So from then it was like making this decision of changing and obeying and being thankful and grateful to your body for all of the reasons that you all mentioned, and it came to food. I was like vegetarian. I was in the middle of eating a chicken sandwich, and I was like, don't do this no more. Went vegetarian, and then for like 2 weeks later, a couple weeks later, it was just like, let me just cut it all out. And at that point, it had been this just decision in my life to like, you decide what your level of ignorances are. You decide what you want to ignore and be ignorant to, because we know better. We know a lot of things, but certain things have to happen enough or magnanimous enough for you to decide against it or for it or whatever else. So yeah, I just got to this point in my life where I was just like really facing the things that I was being ignorant about and that I have a choice in also. Like, I obviously still have other consumption vices and things, but it's about balance and deciding what that foundation is and like how you want to move and such. And I truly think, you mentioned discipline, I truly think that discipline is one of the largest things that makes or breaks the wellness in your life.
I will say that diet taught me discipline. Because like when I first went vegan, I think we make it seem very
Excuse me.
like it can be easy. It's not always easy. Like my family's from North Carolina and then Trinidad. Pork is like #1 meat in North Carolina. So, and I'm from New York, like a bacon, egg, and cheese. Like, it's just like I was eating like bacon, egg, and bacon, egg, and cheeses.
Sausage.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it was like, oh, pork. You know, so oh, my like little nose cuff fell. I was trying to be cute today, y'all. I'm still cute. But yeah, so I'm thinking about getting the other side pierced. But yeah, like it's not an easy process, but it really was just like, I was like, yeah, I just have to keep thinking like, what is it doing to my body? And I just really wanted to not be in pain every month. Like I was in pain every month to the point like I was going to the ER and they're like, oh, what's your pain level? And I'm like 10 each time. But they're like, oh, well, we don't really know what's wrong. We think it's endometriosis. We think it's this. Like, it was just back and forth, all these different things. And I was like, yeah, I just kept thinking about that. Like, no, I need to shift my diet because I really just want to feel well in my body. I also grew up in a area that's considered a food desert. And so like healthy food is just not an option. Like even now, like being vegan, that's why it was so important for me to figure out how to make things that weren't processed, because I had no access to like Daiya cheese or oat milks or anything like that. It was like, I have to make it all myself, especially in the height of the pandemic where I wasn't traveling at all. So I think it's also just important to like pass that on to like our families, like diabetes, high blood pressure, all these ailments are in our like, especially in Black communities. Sure. And so that's why like diet was so important for me to change, and it trickled into everything else. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm like, I feel like Coco could follow up on this. I'm just gonna, you know, I'm like waiting for like
Yahaya should, because this
like
Yahaya talks to how yoga is everything. Those principles, that mindset, and it's the application. It's not the practice of get your warriors right, get your downward dogs.
I be feeling good as hell in my warrior.
Yeah, get your, get all of that right. It's about that mindfulness in that moment, and how do you apply that elsewhere? How do you continue that practice of yoga outside of that physical movement side of it?
Right. I think it just comes back to energy and like learning to move your energy. So the physical part is learning to move your physical energy, then your emotional and your intellectual, everything. Just learning to harness it, to direct it however you need. Yeah. So and diet, I've heard you guys have talked about diet a bunch of times, and it's so important. Like I think the way you put it, Coco, where it's like you're eating something that's gonna help your vibration because it is coming from the earth. We are the earth. And that's, I guess, ties back to what I mentioned about union with yoga. It's like, how are you unifying with everything? Harmony. How are you harmonizing with everything? So yeah, I think, I love yoga, you know that, but it's really whatever practice you want to choose to do, just you got to do it. I think that's what it comes down to, is you got to do it. And be consistent, disciplined. So, you know,
Yeah.
And I would just like to add to what you're saying. I feel like when you say find something that you like enjoy doing, you love
Right.
doing, like also when you do something that is not forced, it is that much more free flowing.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
So I love that you said that.
Yeah.
Yeah, like yoga has helped me like release. Like I'll be in yoga and I'll be like, oh shit, some tears is coming out. I'm like, what's going on? But it like helps my brain also release. Yeah, so I look at yoga as a release for sure.
Yeah. I think finding ways to incorporate it into like your life
Yeah.
from top to bottom is the most efficient way to practice.
Give
Like,
us a tip. You know it's
Okay.
coming. Like just in
How you
general,
sit.
how do you conceptualize?
Like how you sit throughout the
Mhm.
day. You know, if you're constantly slouched, if you're constantly, you know, I think once you go a certain period of time devoting to the asana, the movement part, and you start to feel good in your body, sitting incorrectly is just not going to happen. Because you realize that I'm not breathing right slouched like this, you know? So if you can go from top to bottom, from the time you wake up to the time you sleep, really aware of your posture, that alone can change your life.
Absolutely.
Like how you're walking, how you're sitting, how you're bending to pick something up.
But it also changes your mind too. Like I notice on days where I feel like if I feel heavy, like mentally or in my heart, I'll slouch more. So I'll, like me and Coco have actually had this conversation, but I'll like put my shoulders back and I'm just like, all right, let me make sure I walk high today because I know I have some things going on
It's like that superhero
in my head.
pose.
Yeah, you know, so it's just kind of like, all right, let me sit up a little more because my mind is like doing its own thing today.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's like even slouching, like when I was younger, I slouched so much and I never like noticed it until I got older. And I was like, oh, I'm always slouching. And I was like, how am I supposed to think high of myself if I don't even posture myself highly, you know?
Absolutely. And just going back to you two talking about breath work and like posture, like I think that it's important because when you are slouching, like you said, you're actually adding a lot of pressure onto the lungs, so you're actually compacting everything. So
They can expand.
yeah, so I think that that's important. I love that you guys said that.
Yeah. Something that's ringing out to me, like we're talking about food, we're talking about our bodies and earth, talking about yoga, all very ancient things that we're made to experience and conceptualize from a very Western structure and mindset. I'm not gonna throw by design in there, but I just did because that's facts. You know, we abide by and we're raised by society as much as we have good rearing in our homes and our communities and such. The grander society is really what shapes us. Is really where we consume the most. That impacts us physically, mentally, emotionally. I'm not saying those don't exist obviously in our homes, but the most influence also comes from there after a certain point. So I say all that to say, I think this conversation is extremely important and prevalent because we're in the food deserts, because we are from the backgrounds that we're from, first generation, second generation, immigrant, whatever have you, that lands us in the communities that we're in. And a lot of those things kind of keep us in those communities because we either don't have the space and mindfulness to live well and be in a space of wellness and practicing those things, or we just don't even know. We're not even told and exposed to it. Each of you do work to make sure that that exposure is there, that the conversation is had and the importance of it is communicated. Why is that important?
I think that it's important to communicate it because a lot of people are battling themselves. A lot of people want to do the right things. A lot of people want to change their diets, but they're also still like neurologically very addicted. So it's always like a push and pull. So being able to be vocal about these things actually help to further motivate and also influence. So for that, somebody who does want to change their lifestyle and wants to better themselves and elongate their existence, they may not know the right ways to do it. And then when seeing someone that's being vocal about it or literally moving about it, it actually is like a little nudge. So it's like, oh, okay, I can do this. And you never know what people are going through. And these people could have this mindset of being so self-destructive that even though they want to do it, they'll constantly tell themselves that they can. They gaslight themselves. So being that continuous experience for somebody without physically being there to watch them, even if it's like from their own home, like that actually helps to like put someone's life at ease, like put someone's mind at ease, like put someone's spirit at ease, because it gives them the motivation and lets them know that this is possible.
Have anything to add to that?
Your self-care is collective care. So I think like working on yourself, like for me, it really narrows down to like learning about our histories. Like through food, I've been able to learn about my heritage in so many different ways. Through meditation, I've been learning even frequency. Like I've been thinking more about, because I do a lot of craft traditions, or practice a lot of craft traditions in my personal art practice. I've been thinking more about like fabrics and what frequencies they hold. Like cotton is the most breathable fabric.
Literally.
But it has a certain like frequency level to it. And so I'm learning more about like frequencies of fabric, frequencies of like, for your root chakra, for your sacral chakra, your sacral chakra, solar plexus, like, and so me doing this self work, I feed it back wherever I go. So it doesn't matter if I'm like in an art gallery or if I'm walking on the street. I meet people on the street all the time, and I'll just like, they either giving me a message or I'm giving them a message. And so if my cup is empty, I can't pour into nobody else's. And sometimes you don't want everybody pouring into your cup either. So it's like I have to be very mindful and intentional in my self-care practice before I'm going out into community. But yeah, your self work is collective work. And so that's very important to remember in the whole process.
Well, that last part, like it's all about the collective, and it kind of starts with the individual.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like that's a huge part of why I practice and like take my practice so seriously, is because I think that one of the best things a person can bring to society is like their highest self, essentially. Yeah, like I think you might have mentioned consumption is something you speak about so much. You know, you are what you consume. You have like a whole beautiful written thing on that.
Don't butcher my poem.
I won't butcher it. I won't butcher it. But that's one of my favorite. That's one of my favorite things you've written. So there's so much information on TV, just one-on-one interactions, Instagram, and it's influencing our lives, right? So I think people like Coco, Jazmine, you, everyone in SLAPcollective, what we are sharing, I think is adding to maybe something more nutritious for society, hopefully. And it's really why I shared I think spirituality is something that can go over a lot of people's heads. It's like made to be this cliche. It's like made into this thing that's like, it's really just be aware of yourself, be aware of your surroundings, understand that you are part of everything, and just approach life with some kindness and you know, hands-on approach to your own life,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
So that's why I hope to share it and let people know that their lives are really in their hands.
I'm gonna close us out with a couple of comments on stillness. Over the summer, something in me while I was driving was literally like, turn the radio off. And I spent probably about 6 months driving with no sound in my car. And I feel like at this point I don't remember all my thoughts, but I feel like when I was driving and it was quiet and I was just paying attention to what I was physically doing and just had like a clear mind to like not receive anything other than my physical movement and no other noise, I just was at ease. I pat myself on the back because I'm not actually a erratic New York driver. I'm actually very calm and like chill, but that's also part of just like that energy that you hold and that you allow to dictate your own energy and that you allow your body to harbor for you. So in that quietness, even though I was in movement and going somewhere, I just felt extremely like still and balanced. And because of that, I just felt like my reception of everything was like on 10. And I imagine that to be part of meditation, part of the breath work and the recalibrating of the energies that you receive and that you give off. So I just wanted to offer some space for you all to comment on stillness, and on creating that space for yourself to balance out, to assess your wellness and your well-being, and to offer yourself space to recalibrate.
I guess I'll start. It's all in the routines. So, like what I was talking about earlier with morning routines, I sleep with my blinds or curtains open so the sun can wake me up. That also helps with anyone dealing with depression or anxiety. Oftentimes, your mind is kind of more active and more prone to depression early in the morning for some reason. So I do that. I don't have any music on in the morning, and if I do, it's either most times it's like mantra music. So anything that's like helps me stay calm. If I feel ungrounded, I'll put on something from my root chakra. If I feel like my higher self, I put on something for my third eye or crown chakra. Yeah, it's just in those routines. Writing really helps me a lot to be still, to just kind of dump everything and then sit.
No.
Okay. For me, I feel like you said routine. I think that that's important because routine is also another form of discipline, in which you were talking about. But also for me, I feel like writing. It's very important. Also allows you to go back to your thoughts. So I literally will make sure that when I get up, the first thing I'm writing, my first sentence is what I'm grateful for every day based off of my experience from the day prior. So when you start your day off with gratitude, you actually allow yourself to be that much more open to being vulnerable with yourself. The more you're vulnerable with yourself is the easier it is to become still by being able to find it so easy to release.
When I think of stillness, for me, it's about, it's a chance to just see things as they are.
To be present.
Yeah, like see things as they are, not more, not less, just what it is. So, that's like what stillness allows. And two ways, simple ways I try to get that stillness or keep that stillness is movement and breathing. So if I'm in a space to move, or if I have the energy to move, I'll always move. Any time of the day. It could be just a quick down dog.
Eyes in a handstand.
But you know, if I'm driving or if I'm in conversation and I need a little bit of stillness, then I just try to like focus on my breathing. As simple as watching my breath go in, or feeling my breath go in, feeling it go out. And that typically settles and keeps the stillness, or brings the stillness. So I think those are two accessible things for everybody. We all breathe, we all can all move to some degree. Doesn't have to be any special movement.
I think you hit it on the head, and when you said presence, I think that's what like I was experiencing when I was driving. When you drive, you know, you have the music playing, you dancing, you're like, oh shit, this light, whatever. But like, I was just present. I was literally just driving my car, and I think that takes a lot of energy to be present, and you have to be able to distract yourself from the distractions and deflect the energies again that don't feel.
I have to jump in real quick.
Yes,
it does take a lot of energy to be present, but I feel like it takes more energy to be like all over the place too.
But it's passive energy.
Right.
To just be all over the place. It's you all over the place, so you're not really there. You just all over, but being present is like a concerted effort to be here.
I do that when I'm traveling on the train because there's so much energy on the train. So I actually like to be aware. I know we're wrapping up, but I like to be aware. So I won't listen to music. Most people are like, what? I have to so I could tune everything out. And I was like, no, I need to be very aware because there's so much going on.
Who all over there coughing? Thank you all for being present with us here today. Thank you all for the work that you do and all the ways that you do it. Keep learning for yourselves. Keep teaching yourselves so that you can teach and impart on others. Thank y'all for the work and the wellness that you put into the world.
Thank you for having us.
Yes.
Appreciate y'all. This was great.